All right, it's ReW, and we are here at the Pete Seeger Vision event. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And you are a friend of Pete Seeger, is this right?
Yes, I was lucky enough to meet Pete in 1948 when he was playing for Henry Wallace, who was a candidate for President of the United States. And my mother took me. I saw this guy playing the banjo, who was terrific. And then he went and he hung out with everybody in the audience afterwards. I said, boy, I want to meet him.
Were you like 5?
No, I was 17.
Wow.
I'm 83 now. I'm the youngster of that.
You look good for your age. I mean, look at you. You are like decorated to the max. Do you always wear all this jewelry?
Well, these are things people gave me in my concerts all over the world. And I used to come home and put them in a box. And then my oldest daughter, Alana, when she was little, took them out, put them on strings, and said, wear it.
Aww,
so now I'm just about maxed out.
I love it. It's like I said, it's like a hippie Mr. T, right?
Well, not exactly. I'm too old to be a hippie and too young to be a guru. And I think Mr. T is terrific. I loved his performances in the Rocky movies. Yeah. And I would never try to be disrespectful to Mr. T or his culture or his achievements by being a poor imitation of him or of anybody.
That's a good idea.
And what Pete Seeger showed us was everybody has a song, everybody has an ancestral drum, everyone has a heritage or heritages, comes out of some kind of community. They're all beautiful, all sacred, all to be respected. And to try to develop what's in your heart, use your roots, and once you can get in tune with that, then you can appreciate every other person in the world.
I have to agree with that. It's the thing that makes the most sense of everything, basically, because we're all the same but all a little different too, right?
Sure, and both are beautiful.
Exactly. So do you remember where each thing comes from?
Oh, I do. If you had a 3-hour program, I could give you a long infomercial about each one, and you'd probably lose your listenership, but we'd have fun. But they do come from all different places in the world, and people give them to me as gifts, and I treasure them. And it reminds me every day I get up how lucky I am to still be working in music, which is what I dreamed of as a little boy. 1936, when I went to the first grade in rural Pennsylvania and saw a guy playing an instrument, thought, boy, I'd like to do that.
Wow. So you're from rural Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I was brought up in a place called Feasterville, population 200. And I was fortunate to be able to hear the Philadelphia Orchestra, to hear country musicians who played at the local gas station, whom I found out were from South Philadelphia and not from Texas, but loved the music well enough to play it. And then I heard the jazz greats, and when I moved to Washington, D.C., I met Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker, and they took me under their wing.
Wow. What do you mean, like they took you under their wing?
Well, I met Dizzy when I was 20 years old.
Where?
In my basement apartment in Washington, D.C., and he came down the whole night after he was done his band, and it was wonderful, and gave me a beginning of my education about Pan-African music, about traveling, about all the things I could do in jazz, and extend into writing symphony music using those principles. And Charlie Parker did something similar when I met him. And I only mention that because everybody can teach all of us something new, and those particular people, like Pete Seeger, appreciated not only what they were known for, but everything else of beauty.
Yeah, it seems appropriate. So did you play with Pete Seeger ever?
Oh, I played with Pete off and on since the late 1950s. I didn't play with him when I met him that day because, first of all, you don't crash the stage, at least I don't. And secondly, I'm not sure when I was 17, I could play the French horn and was beginning to play a little jazz, but I wouldn't have known what to do with him. Now, I did, of course. In the last year, we played together 6 times.
Oh, that's nice.
And they're all pictures of us there's a wonderful picture on the web of Pete Seeger, Dizzy Gillespie, and myself in 1985. At Clearwater, taken by Tom Walke, who by coincidence is Guy Davis's manager now.
Wow.
But Tom just said, boy, I got to get these 3 guys. So he told me a few months ago, I'm the one that took that picture. And it was wonderful. Dizzy played at Clearwater, and I did too, and Pete, and we all played together. And I've done that so many times. In the symphonic piece I wrote called Symphonic Variations on a Song by Woody Guthrie, I called up Pete and said, Nora wants me to set This Land Is Your Land and make a whole symphony based on that. I want to make sure I get the right melody. Pete gave me a 2-hour lecture on the history of that song and the history of the melody that Woody used, which came from 100 other songs. And when I wrote Theme and Variations on Red River Valley, I said, you know, Pete, this is dedicated to Hondo Crouch, the mayor of Lukenbach, Texas. I want to make sure that I get the melody right. And he said, well, David, and another 2 or 3 hours showing all the ways that Red River Valley could be sung, the lyrics, the way the melody come over from England, Ireland, and Scotland. He was an encyclopedia of music and a brilliant guy, aside from being so much fun. And then when you played with him, it was perfect because he always listened. It was always about the music. 100% about the music and the people who were participating in it.
So he was a team player.
Yeah, and that's why he was happy. And that's one of the reasons he lived as long as he did, because he made a contribution. And as Dizzy Gillespie told me on his 70th birthday, he said, David, I met you. You were a hick, 20-year-old hick. Now you got gray hair. It's time to put something back into the pot. And Dizzy and Pete Seeger did that, and when I worked with Leonard Bernstein, I was the first composer in residence with the New York Philharmonic. He was that way.
Were you a horn player then?
I was a composer. And he would sit and talk to everybody and anybody that came up to him and speak to them, and if they wanted to know anything about music, he would just lay it on them. Right. And as a result, he was always a pretty happy guy. Right. He shocked the management of the orchestra because they wanted to have Mr. Snobola. The whole idea of the unapproachable superstar is so hard, being rich, successful, and famous. I guess that's a certain image that makes some people frightened. Right. That's how the British Empire kept people subjugated for several hundred years.
Well, not only the British.
By making people feel that they were crummy and terrified. And anybody can do that. But there's another approach which might not generate as much quick income, which is a lot healthier, which is what the Lakota Indians say in English: respect, love, and sharing. Yeah. Not complicated. Right. All that stuff's pretty simple. Yeah. Just being for real. Absolutely. And then what Pete did, most important, walking the walk that you talk. Right. So that you try to be that you're speaking about. There's an old thing in the Hebrew prayer called Al Kudush Hashem. That means to be what it is that you're rapping about.
Right. Practice what you preach, basically.
So many of those cultures have that. Yeah. So you figure by this time
people would be doing it.
But I guess the fact that we didn't means they have to have all those different cultures give us a little reminder.
Yeah, constantly, right? And that's what the songs are a lot about.
It might be a lot cooler to give full greed ahead a sabbatical leave.
I agree. Absolutely.
And if you can't be a decent, respectful, nice person, fake it.
Oh, I like that.
And if you do, you feel good. You'll feel so good afterwards. You say, man, maybe that's a hipper way to be.
Exactly.
I'm still working on that, too. And my son says, Daddy, if nothing else, you have a good attitude. Yeah. So I concentrate mostly on that.
Right. So Shirley asked me to ask you about what made you do the move from Beacon to Hudson, down the Hudson?
Oh, well, no, I'm actually moving from Putnam Valley, which I love, 31 years on a farm. I wanted my kids to get a chance to grow up on a farm as I had. And my little rent-controlled apartment in the city was getting kind of squashed with 2 rooms when the 3rd child came. We could have done it, because I've been all over the world where people all live in 1 or 2 rooms, and if they love the family, they're much cooler than a lot of people who live in a mansion that hate each other. So I was prepared to do that. But then the landlord decided he would upgrade the neighborhood by throwing everyone out of the block. So we had no choice but to move to it, because by that time the real estate boom made it unaffordable to live in a broom closet. So we moved up to a wonderful little place, and then my labor force, which my 3 kids all decided they wanted to be city billies. They moved to Brooklyn.
Of course.
And then I was stuck in this wonderful place with a lot of memories and all this stuff to take care of, and with all the music I'm still doing, and another book I'm writing and pieces I'm composing. I just didn't have the time to do it well. So I'm moving from a big place that was all falling apart into a real small place, and I really like it. It's a new chapter.
That's exciting.
And the television show, The Hoarders, was a huge help. I had never seen that. And then when I saw all those people, I said, man.
Were you one of them?
I've got the same mental affliction, but I didn't make it on the TV show yet. But I better get my act straightened out before they show me.
They come to your door.
Clambering over a pile of stuff saying, wait a minute, I know it's here somewhere.
So what's the last piece you've written?
I wrote a piece called Greenwich Village Portraits, first movement celebrating McDougal Street, dedicated to the memory of Arthur Miller, whom I worked with right down there when the Lincoln Center Theater was located in the village. They hadn't finished the building. And I did the music for After the Fall and Incident of Vichy, which he wrote. And then we used to go hang out at the coffee houses, and Arthur Miller loved McDougal Street. So the second movement is a memory of Odetta, whom I worked with for years, and that's called Bleecker Street. And that was celebrating all her music and her friendship and the beautiful musics that she played. And the third movement is called Christopher Street, and that was dedicated to Frank McCourt, who I used to play at his brother's bar when Frank was a high school student at the Bells of Hell. And then Frank became, at 70, stopped teaching school and became a famous writer for his wonderful books. He was just a great down-home guy. And I used a lot of the traditional Irish music that I learned from Frank and from his brother Malachi and so many other friends. And I'm now orchestrating it for saxophone and string orchestra. And that's going to get played a lot of different places. And all my...
Now, is it strictly music, or are there lyrics as well?
Oh, no, just regular concert music. Right. And the New York Public Library at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts has gotten my whole archive. So a lot of the stuff that I was hoarding, I got organized, and it's in a safe place, a lot of music and letters from people and pictures. And now I have a place to put all these things. So it's almost by moving and cleaning house and doing that, I could start a whole new chapter.
Like a renaissance.
Exactly. Could start a whole new chapter, hopefully, and make a contribution so that younger people, when their career counselors say, look, you're 23, you're washed up, you're too old for MTV, you're washed up, give it up, it sucks, there's no market for it, there's no demographics, they'll say, well, thank you for the advice, but maybe I'll get a second opinion.
Oh, I like that idea. What is the second opinion?
Well, the second opinion is mine, which is even at 83. I'm still out there, too, trying to get it.
God bless you, man. You are my hero.
Oh, thank you. And I told my kids, I said, if I don't really hit it by 90, that gives me 7 more years, I'm going to go to dental school. I said, that'll have that security.
Yeah. And I was thinking something like that today myself.
Well, I think the thing I always tell kids when I'm in schools is...
Oh, I love that. Can you say that again?
Well, more than that, whatever you do to pay your rent has no bearing on your value as an artist or person. And secondly, in our society, what you deserve and what you get have nothing to do with one another. So the best thing is, if something you're told is hopeless and you want to do it, go ahead and do it anyway.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
And it's not that complicated.
Yeah, it makes you more of who you are. It's the Pete Seeger motto.
Well, it's complicated to figure out how to survive, how to pay your bills, but that's complicated for everybody. Right. And when you see people half the world who are starving to death and don't have a place to stay and have no medical care, that means that whinology and blameology is not totally necessary. And any messes that we got here, we can straighten out without being that complicated.
So when are you going to run for political office?
Never. Never. I respect people that do that, and I think it's an extremely important job, and just like being a garbage man is, or cleaning out septic tanks. That's important stuff. That's some hard work. Yes. And I think you have to have a calling for that. Right. My calling is to try to do the things that I'm doing, and I believe I can do them better. Right. And I don't say that to dismiss people who clean out septic tanks or do that kind of work, or people who work in politics. Mm-hmm. That's a hard gig. And conversely, I don't think our job as musicians and artists is to be co-opted by any political persuasion. I hope I'm not a left winger or a right winger or any winger. You need both wings to fly the bird. And as Thelonious Monk said, you need all 88 keys black and white to play the piano. So it's not about choosing sides and demonizing other people. That's understandable.
But it's coexisting and disagreeing and appreciating.
It's trying to be human.
Yeah, I'm in that whole religion, whatever that is, of the human appreciation.
That's the oldest way, the most natural way. And
that being able to disagree with people. You don't have to agree with their politics or their thinking.
Pete said the greatest thing at the end. He wrote a postcard. He said, I'm not in good health, and my voice was kind of going. He said, my wife, Toshi, is in very poor health. I spend as much time as I can with her, and I work with kids in my community. But the rest of the time I do have off, rather than doing concerts, I spend time with those with whom I do not agree, and I recommend you all do the same. I said, wow, how about that for an evolved state?
I do believe that, though.
Yeah.
I really do. And doing it in a, not passive, but like in just a normal way, like without arguing. You don't have to agree with someone.
Also, and it's not a thing of being holier than thou or demonizing other people and calling them names because they think differently. Because the horrible thing is a lot of those people I see all my time. I say, man, I'm just the same.
Exactly.
It's just I was lucky enough to bump into some people that showed me there's a different way of looking at it.
Right. So, on our... Yeah, well, I feel lucky that I'm sitting next to you. So, we never even said your name. So, would you say it?
Yeah, I'm DaVid aMRaM, promising young senior citizen composer.
Nice. And do you have a website that you want people to check out?
It's www. That's pretty normal. And then just my name, DaVid, D-A-V-I-D, aMRaM, A-M-R-A-M. It's all one word, DaVid aMRaM. And then you push the buttons and you see a picture of me from 1968 looking like
conducting
an orchestra. I looked a lot younger.
Did you have long hair?
Oh, man, I really did then.
How long?
Well, probably too long for today's world.
Really?
But it was a fun picture. And then they have all different stuff, including stuff I did when I worked with Jack Kerouac and U2 playing with Dizzy Gillespie and Willie Nelson and conducting in Chicago.
Did you do the deed with Willie?
No, I
How could you work with Willie and not do the deed?
Well, at that point, remember, I'm 83 years old. So at a certain point in your life, the old brain cells start to diminish. So I figure, well, the few brain cells that I have left, I got married late in life, 1979. My first daughter was born. I was already 48 years old, kind of a senior citizen, teenage father. I said, man, she's so beautiful. What am I going to do at her high school graduation? Or she gets married or does whatever she's doing. I got to be around. Then my second daughter was born, gorgeous. I was then almost 50. Then my son was born, Adam, 1984. I was 53 years old. I said, boy, I'm supposed to play baseball with him, and if you're living on the farm, do work like my father did, not be in a mental institution or dead. So that was kind of my 12-step program for cooling everything out. So when I go to colleges and schools, people say, hey, he worked with Jack Kerouac, Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, Thelonious Monk, and all those hip cats, and they bring out all the big trays of drugs, alcohol, and everything else. I say, hey, I appreciate your hospitality, but I said, I don't do anything except drink coffee, which I shouldn't. And I said, I'm living proof.
Well, maybe you should, because it hasn't hurt you.
Well, I should say, I'm living proof you could be just as crashing a bore, stone cold sober, as stoned out of your head. So then I get a chuckle, and they see I'm not trying to put them down or saying that I've been a saint. It's just that after a certain point, you got to give up something, I guess. So I gave up that. But Willie can function with that. And he told me he used to drink a lot, and he just didn't know what to do. And he said when he smoked weed, he said that was able to help him not to drink. And he felt that drinking would have killed him. And he found out that smoking weed agreed with him. and now he's just turned 80, and he just got a black belt in karate.
Good for him.
He's golf, and he's very, very healthy. So he's able to do that and to function.
Yeah, I guess it's all different strokes for different folks. Yeah.
Oh, when I would smoke weed, I enjoyed it, but I always would find the next day when I had to do something really that I didn't want to do,
Like brain surgery or heart surgery.
like anything, I would say, "Wow, man, maybe I'll do it the day after tomorrow." And then by the day after tomorrow, I would have forgotten about it until I got the angry letter saying, "Hey, you didn't pay that bill. Hey, you forgot to give me the music. Hey, you were supposed to call me up. Hey, are you all right?" So then I realized that it was probably better to be stone cold sober and tortured and get my stuff done.
So when's your birthday?
November 17th.
That's my grandfather's birthday. Yeah.
As old as me?
The same grandfather I was talking about yesterday all day. Yeah. It's his birthday. He is in the air right now.
Oh.
Yeah, he's up there. But I'm telling you, yesterday I was talking about him all day, and now you say you have his birthday. So he's around right now, my Grandpa Louie.
As the great Sun Ra said, space is the place.
Yeah.
And when I was with my second daughter once, I was having one of those great moments of philosophic reflection. She looked up and she said, "Daddy, are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." She said, "Well, are you sure?" I said, "I'm just kind of spacing out." She said, "Is that cool?" I said, "Yeah, it's nice out here."
So, just for kicks, today happens to be National Vanilla Pudding Day. I couldn't bring any vanilla pudding, but I brought a little vanilla candy if you'd like some. We usually share skeletons in the closet. I feel like you've shared so many, but is there any other skeleton you'd like to share from your closet?
Well, I like the Mexican idea of skeletons when they show those wonderful celebrations and all the skeletons are dancing and having a ball and drinking, smoking cigars and enjoying themselves. But I think in our culture, which I'm a product of, that we sometimes celebrate, live fast, and die young too much. So I'd rather celebrate life. And live people, maybe like myself, who are old enough that they should be skeletons, but since we're still here trying to do something. So I would hope, that for your program and your good disposition that you put out and all the other people you're interviewing here, hopefully everybody watching, when they get bummed out with what is difficult for everybody every day, they'll say, well, beyond that, there's some joy and something we could celebrate. So if what we're doing right now can make someone else celebrate what they have and share those blessings with others, then it would have been worthwhile.
Thank you so much for talking with me.
My treat.
Such a pleasure. Mwah.
Keep up your good work.
And you too, because, you never know.
No, and
We just might hit.
The other thing is, too, the Internet is such a blessing. Because I always talk, a lot of people that know me have heard this before, but we're no longer obliged to be incarcerated with a triple life sentence in what I call the penitentiary of bad taste. Because now there's an option. You can go on YouTube, you can go on your show on the Internet, you can see stuff for free that's so interesting, so educational. Then you can turn off the computer, find out there's a lot of other people to hang out with that also are thinking about something besides what we have poured like an avalanche of swill 24 hours a day dumped on us, and they wonder why people behave strangely. Man, when they're advertising homicide and genocide all the time, it's understandable if people would do something strange, because it wouldn't cost $100,000 a minute to advertise on network television if it didn't have an effect on people. So therefore, what you're doing is adding a little vitamins and a little health to that situation. And I think eventually that's going to make commercial television better when there's enough stuff on YouTube and other places that people are watching that's really valuable, and they suddenly see, wait a minute, there's 300,000 people watching this loser that shouldn't have anybody. Maybe we better check out what they're doing, and they might slowly ease into raising the standards.
I have to agree.
If that happens, I say in 200 or 300 years, everything's going to be cool.
Yeah, I like that. So give it up for this lovely young man. DaVid, say your last name so I don't mess it up.
aMRaM.
aMRaM.
That's me.
DaVid aMRaM.
That's it.
Such a pleasure. .com. All right. Thank you.